Okay, so hi, hello, welcome to this video again, and today we'll be looking at some few things that will be helping us to understand the ability of Microsoft Excel as it relates to data manipulation and data modification. In this video, we'll be looking at the if statement, the SUMIF statement, the SUMIF function, the COUNTIF function, and also we'll be looking at how you can convert a range in Microsoft Excel to a table. The advantage of converting a range in Microsoft Excel to a table is it enables you to be able to organize your data in a way that you can efficiently manage the data. In fact, the documentation that comes with that feature in Microsoft Excel has this to say that Excel has some features that enable you to work efficiently with your data, and one of those features is structured reference. So instead of using the regular cell references such as A1, B1, C3, and so on, you can use a structured reference that references table names in a formula. We are going to look at that in today's class. Then we also, one of the other feature is actually ensuring data integrity. And in that part of the data integrity, we can use built-in data validation feature in Excel, which we are going to look at possibly in the next series that I will be releasing. So today we are going to be doing quite a number of things around this key subject areas that I've mentioned, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so I have actually created a worksheet in this workbook, and this worksheet is actually containing a bunch of data, and this data that we have here are actually dummy data, but we are going to look at how we are going to use them. Currently, as you can see from my cell reference here, that this is actually using the regular name cell reference as a name. So we'll have A7, and we'll probably have D10, and we'll have C14, and so on and so forth. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to look at how you can convert a range to Microsoft Excel table. So the first thing we need to do is to select the range you're working with, and when you select the range you're working with, you're going to use the key combination Ctrl+T to convert it to a table. And you can see here there is a dialog box that is displayed, and that dialog box is asking you where is the data for your table. And as you can see, we already have, which I'm going to talk about in this video before I end it. We have an absolute cell reference referring to A1 to E19, as you can see. So normally, if it is not to be an absolute cell reference, what it means is that by the time I move, I can actually move the content of the table. But again, we'll look at that shortly before the end of the video. So we have cell A1. So the $ you're seeing here is actually referring to the fact that this is an absolute cell reference. It's not relative. So A1 to E19. And then it is also very important that you check this box. My table has header, because from what we have here, you can see that there are headers. So we already know that this table has header. And then when I click on OK, you will see what happens. Of course, the table is converted, right? So it is converted using this format table. As you can see here, we are using one of this format here, and I think probably it is one of these things here that is being deployed to my table, and I think this is it. All right, but again, we'll get to those ones in a moment. Now that we have this table that is actually formatted like this, then we can come to design. We can come to design here, and we can name this table. So I'm going to give this table, I'm going to give it a name of, say, let me call it depth analysis, department analysis, like so, right? So we have a department analysis table. All right, so you might not see what is actually happening here, but then we can do a whole lot of things from this. So let me get rid of this bunch of data we have here. I'm going to get rid of them, and I'm going to get rid of this data also. So I'm going to get rid of this data now, and then we are back in this place. So we are looking at using table, for example. So if I come here now and I say equals to 0.05, for example, multiplied by this, do you see what happens? So instead of calling it by the cell reference, which is supposed to be C2, which obviously is what we are seeing from here, right? Instead of calling it from that point, it gives it the name of that cell. Now notice again what is going to happen when I execute this expression and I press enter. Do you see what happens? It automatically autofills the rest of those columns within the range. So this way, regardless of the number of rows or columns that you're actually working on, you can within a short period of time execute a set of instruction that will be cascaded on a range of columns or a range of cells. Then another thing we want to do is, let's look at here again and say, probably we're saying equals to, for example, and it is going to be basic salary plus house allowance. So I am not going to type this command by myself, so I'm just coming here, I'm coming to basic salary, and as you can see now, we have at basic salary plus, for example, and I'm saying at house allowance, and I press enter. You see what happens? Eventually this also cascade, and we know that 12,000 plus 600 is 12,600, and so on and so forth. So this is a typical example of what this table looks like. So I'm going to make this 35,000 and then 35,000. Okay, fine. So this is exactly what a table can help us to do. But now we might not even eventually see the complete beauty of what table can help us to achieve in Excel, because as you can see in this particular worksheet, there is just one table. But I'm going to leave it to you to attempt to create more tables. Remember that when you create, when you have an idea of the range of what your table is going to look like, it is important that you highlight it. Even before entering the values in those cells, you select the range of that table, press your key combination Control plus T to open the table dialog, the create table dialog box, sorry, and then you can ensure that you check that your table has header, and then you can populate and you can create the table, and you can do all these things that I'm doing. So that is that on how to use table in Microsoft Excel. There are quite a number of features that we can use with this table that will help us and make it even easier and more interesting for us to explore this track when it comes to tables in Excel. But again, in this video, like I said earlier on, this video is pretty going to be short, and I want to give that to you guys as a take-home test. Attempt to create a worksheet that has more than one table. Can we attempt to create a workbook that has more than 2 sheets, and each of those sheets has a table or 2, and then we are able to link the table, link tables from different sheets and run some series of calculations with those ones. So let's see what you guys have got. So at the end of this series, I'm going to do another video for the solution to most of the problems that I'm going to be creating in the course of my videos. So now that has been done, the next thing we want to look at is the if condition, and I'm going to create another sheet that contains some random data that we can use to work on that for a minute. Okay, so and this one we will have another video, another sheet here. As you can see, the first sheet we had was the sheet where we created this, and we will still come back to this eventually. And then the second sheet is where we'll have this. remember that what we are actually trying to work on here is using the if statement. And the if statement, or the if function in Microsoft Excel, actually takes about 3 parameters, right? And the 3 parameters it takes are the expression, that is the condition now, and then the value if it is true, and the value if the condition is false. Say for example, so we are just going to demonstrate that in a moment. So I'm going to first, as you know, type in the if, and I say this. So you see now, you can see that we have logical text, logical test, value if true, and value if false. Now, from just looking at this table, you would notice that what we actually want to test is, we want to see if we have actually spent beyond our budget. Again, it is also important to note here that the number of rows in this table are just about 6. So it's something I can just look, oh, 250 is less than 450, I will just put in the value there. Overspending, right? And 120 is greater than 110, I can say, yeah, we underspent, and so on and so forth. But then imagine that you now have a large chunk of data, a data set numbering in its 100, in its 1000, and so on and so forth. Obviously, you will not be able to go through the tables one after the other manually, entering value true or value false or something like that. So that is where the if function comes handy. So what are we testing for? We are saying if the actual is greater than budget, let us say that we have overspent. But if the budget, if it is the other way around, let us say we have underspent. Now from this table, you will notice that the actual is actually contained in the D column, right? And then the budget is contained in the C column. So we're going to say if D2, yes, if D2 is greater than C2, right, comma, what is going to be the value if it is true? We'll put that as a string. It has to be string. If D2 is greater than B2, we're going to say it is overspending, like so. Then we'll put a comma again. As you can see, we have shifted to the value if it is false, and it's going to be underspending. I think there's supposed to be a space there, underspending. And then you close the function and you press enter. And as you can see now, it is saying that we have overspent, which is the truth, because obviously if you had budgeted 250,000 and you are spending 450,000, you are way overspending. That's the truth. But again, then what do? Then we can now come there. Remember how to do autofill from our previous videos? You click on this node here and click and drag down, and let's see what happens. So on the first row we overspent, on the second row we underspent, on the third row we underspent, on the fourth row yeah, we overspent, and on the fifth row we underspent. So this is exactly how the if condition or the if function works in Microsoft Excel. So now imagine that you now have a large chunk of data. You would agree with me that obviously this is going to be a small thing to do because we have this formula handy. Now let's come back to this table. Let's come back to this table and do some more analysis, right? Because eventually, like I said, this class is bearing in mind that you are having the liberty to choose whatever career you want to go in for, whether you want to go into the accounting department or you want to go into data analysis or whatever it is. At the end of this series, you should be able to settle down to take one of your choice, and you should be able to do well in it. Alright, so we'll have a bunch of data here. As you can see from here, we have some items are repeated. Imole, Catherine, Imuru, Cynthia, Cindy, Louis, Larry, Peace, Frema, Cynthia, Cindy, Louis, Larry, Peace, Frema, Justice. So I repeated a chunk of data in there so that, of course, this is dummy data. They are really nothing. They are not doing anything in the real life. So, and you can see carpentry, we have carpentry, we have carpentry, we have carpentry. So now, and in this analytics, I have actually said I want to be able to calculate the values from all the builders. All right. So as you can see, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of this for a minute. As you can see from here now, so we are saying that, for example, there is an analytic department, which is where you're working, and we have a large user base or a large employee base. Maybe a company is employing about 100%, and each of those person is working in different department. So, and being in the analytics department, and you are being asked at the end of a fiscal year to inform us or to advise us on who and who do we spend more money on, right? So, excuse me. So we have the builders, we have the bricklayers, we have the masons, we have the drivers, and we have the others. Now, the job here is that we want to be able to calculate the gross salary for all the people in the building department. Now, notice the tweak I did here. On the table to my left hand side, it is actually building. And on the table to my right hand side, which is the analytics, it is actually the builders. So building is the action, which is the verb, and builders are the nouns, right? So we are saying that we want to calculate how much that we are spending on the builders. And don't forget that the builders are the people who are working in the building department. Okay, so obviously, because our table again is a very short thing, it's not large, it will be very easy for me to take my calculator and punch 47,250 plus we have 4,875 15 kobo 15 whatever it is, and then we have building again 476.70. We can punch your calculator and say, oh yeah, it is going to give us 56 point something. But again, if you're doing that approach, obviously Microsoft Excel shouldn't be on your desk because you are underusing the capacity or the capability of Microsoft Excel. And this is where SUMIF comes to play. And from the documentation of SUMIF, it is saying that it is a function that returns a value based on the condition that has been specified. It is a function that returns a value based on the condition that is specified. So the value that it is returning to us is actually the sum of a range. So even if we are passing 300 cells to it as a range, it will not sum those range if they do not meet a certain condition. Let's look at what that can look like for us. So again, don't always forget that each formula begins with the equals to sign. So I'm going to say equals to SUMIF, and as you can see now, it is actually having a range. That is the first thing we are going to do. So now, what is the range of cell from which we are checking whether they are builders or whether they are carpenters? It is actually the B column, right? That is where we are checking from, or that is the range of cell we are actually testing against. So I'm going to say B2 like so, and then what is the end? It is going to be B19. B19. So you can see that that has been selected. Then what is the condition that we are looking at for? Again, the condition is going to be a string value. So I'm going to say this, right? And I am going to type building, right? But unfortunately, I am not going to type building. Okay, if I type building, it can work. Yeah, it will work. So I'm going to do building, and then I'm going to pass in comma again. And what is the range I am calculating? So where is the range going to be? So I'm actually picking from the B department all the cells that contain building, and I want to sum it up. So I am going to say again E2 to E19, something like that. All right, and I'm going to close the parenthesis. So we have, let me quickly explain this. So we are saying go inside the range of cell from B2 to B19, look for the text look for the string building. Now use those string if cell E2 is, if cell B2 has the value building, add the value in cell E2 to this array, and so on and so. It is going to go to cell, if cell B2 has building, it picks it, but if cell B2 doesn't have building, it moves to cell C2. If cell C2 has building, it picks the value on cell E2, on E2, E3 rather, picks the value on E3 and add it, and so on and so forth until the end of the series. So now let's press enter. Do you notice what has happened? Now you would notice that builders is actually consuming a large amount of money, 52,601. But then again, let's do for bricklaying. So now we are going to tweak the formula here a little bit. So this time around I'm going to say equals to SUMIF. Now we are actually picking the range again, which is actually B2 to B19. So we're going to say B2 and then we're going to end in B19 and we pass comma. Don't forget, because that is the syntax of the function. So now the criteria or the condition or the expressions that we're actually going to be testing on is we are looking for brick layers. But then look at the little challenge we might run into. Inside our B2 to B19, we actually do not have brick layers. We actually have brick making. All right, but in the case of builders, we have building, so it's more like straightforward. So now we want to do what we called wildcard. So we're not just going to give it brick making straight up like that. We will try to use wildcard. And in a computer, there are two characters that we can use for wildcard, which is either the asterisk or the question mark. But for this demonstration, I'm going to use the asterisk. So I'm going to say, what is my condition? The condition is we are looking for anything that has brick in it and then has whatever you use to complete it. So it's either brick makers or brick making or brick layers. We don't care so long brick is the prefix of that particular word in the cell. So we're going to do that. Condition is complete, and I'm going to do comma again, and I'm coming to E2 to E19. So I'm going to do E2 and I'm going to end it at E19, and I'm going to E19, and I'm going to close this parenthesis to end the function, and I press enter. Do you notice what has happened? Now what has happened here is that it has actually picked this. I'm going to use my control to select what I have: brick, the first brick, then we'll have the second brick, and then we'll have the third brick. In as much as I am not doubting what it has given me, but just so you know that this thing is the same value. Look at what we're having here, 43,204.85, and that is the value we are having here, 43,214.85. So you can see that SUMIF actually comes handy, right? SUMIF actually comes handy, and it helps us to be able to solve a whole lot of problem, because obviously I don't have to start moving around the cells one after the other. So again, can we take this as a task to see if we can solve for Manson and driver? So once you can pause this video and come back to it once you have solved the challenges. Okay, so hoping that you have actually done the task and you have learned the lessons from the task. The last thing we want to do in this series is actually COUNTIF. So this is a function in Microsoft Excel that enables us to count for a condition in a range of cells. So we want to count the number of instances a particular thing happened within a range of cells. So we're going to look at that together. So I'm going to I did a demonstration here, so I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm coming here and I'm saying, okay, fine, so let's do this together again on this sheet. So now we want to look at how many times the driver's department appeared in this cell. So I'm going to come to a new cell and I'm going to do equals to and do COUNTIF. Now you can see the expectant we can see now that these are the parameters we are expecting for this function. So we are saying COUNTIF. What is the range we are counting from? Let's count from B2 and then we are counting to B19, right, comma again. So what is the condition we are looking for? Don't always forget to put it in a string. So we are looking for cooks. So we're looking for cooks, and then we are closing this formula and we are pressing enter. So it is telling us that the word cooks appeared in this range 3 times. Let's go and confirm just so we are sure of what we are doing. So this is the first instance, cooks, and then this is the second instance, and this is the third instance. Now imagine now that you have 1000 entries and you are being asked to count the number of times a particular phrase or a particular word occurred, or a particular name or a particular department occurred in that particular series. So you see it is going to be difficult because you have to be looking through all of them. But then because of Microsoft Excel flexibility and all of that, we don't need to do that manually. So guys, this is where we'll be stopping for today's class, and then we would continue again in this series tomorrow. But for now, please ensure you do all the tasks that we have actually mentioned. Number 1 is, can we see how we'll fill up this space? Create this thing, create this table and fill up this space. Number 2, create multiple tables in this worksheet. Go to this worksheet, create another multiple table, add another worksheet, create another table. Then using references, using cell references, add up the values of sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, and let us have the answers in sheet 4. Please, once you do that, drop your comment on this video and let's have it. Again, one other thing you would do for me is to like, subscribe and share this video, so it gives me the motivation to create more amazing videos that can help you in this journey of getting into tech. Alright, see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.